I didn't know how to be sober. Like, I couldn't sit with myself sober. I was sitting in my bedroom after AMAing from my probably about 11th treatment center, and was kind of just sick and tired of the way I was living. I didn't really want to kill myself, but I didn't really feel like I had any other options, and I put a gun to my head.
Action.
My name's Dakota. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I come from a somewhat dysfunctional family. Father's an abusive alcoholic. Mom, love her to death, but she had to work twice as hard to keep food on the table. And I remember my earliest memory, I know she bought me this little TV to put in my room and to turn up really loud when my dad would come home drunk and they'd be fighting. And I remember sitting in my room with the TV cranked up and just praying to God to either kill me or kill my father, because I just didn't want to live like that anymore. I didn't want to hear the screams. And from very on, like, I just felt that there was something off with me. And by the time I found drugs and alcohol, it was like the solution to all my problems. I wouldn't say I come from a terrible neighborhood, but I don't come from the best neighborhood, and there was a lot of activity. It was like I aspired to be those guys, the older guys that I saw out there that were like selling drugs and doing things like that, because in my like, in the eyes of a little kid, like, I saw power, and I've always seeked that power. And so I wanted to put on this persona that I was this tough street kid that didn't care about anything, because if I can make you believe that, you might not see that I'm paralyzed with fear and that I hate myself. I picked up drugs and alcohol and I fell in love with it because it kind of just went hand in hand with the life, and I was never really able to stop. My dad left when I was about 10 or 11, and like, you'd think that a normal 10, 11-year-old boy would be kind of devastated by that, but I got a sense of ease and comfort out of it. Like, I got a relief, like, finally it's all over. And at this point, my mom's really working. She's a nurse, and she works overnight, and she works a lot. She's like a workaholic, and she was gone most of the time. So at this point, I was kind of already introduced to things, but like, I had no, I don't know. I just had no one watching over me, really. And from the time I was really young, I started selling drugs really because I cared so much about what other people thought about me and like what these other guys were doing. And like, I was addicted to the lifestyle of it. So at this point, I'm drinking, I'm getting kicked out of school, and I end up getting into a lot of trouble. By the time I was 16, I was facing 4 felony charges. I had a possession of a firearm, possession with intent, 2 accounts of burglary, and I get put on intense probation, and all I had to do was pass a drug test. But I'd always end up violate my probation, and then I'd go right back and I'd sit in that cell every single time telling myself it's gonna play out different this time. I'm gonna get out, I'm not gonna get high, I'm not gonna drink, I'm not gonna do any of that stuff until I turn 18 and I'm off probation, and I can then do whatever I wanna do. But I don't know, like, at this point I didn't realize that I've lost that control. So I'd get out, same thing, I'd get out and make all these promises. It's like the first time in years I'm actually praying, and it's like these foxhole prayers, like, God, get me out of this situation, and like, I'll do better next time. And as soon as I get out, I tell myself I can just do one, or I can just drink one time. It's the same thing next week. So at this point, it goes on until I'm about 17, and my probation officer comes over and it's like, look, man, you haven't been to task in weeks. If you go right now, or I'm just gonna violate you and take you in. So at this time, I'm seeing some girl, and I don't want to go back to jail because I can't get high in jail, and I don't want to go to task. So I pack up my car, I go on the run, and I'm like couch surfing for a couple of weeks. And I end up overdosing one night, and I don't even really know what happened. I I guess I was just popping Xanax all night and doing fentanyl Percocets and drinking wine. And I don't even like wine, but at this point, like, I've lost that ability to choose what I'm gonna do. If it's there, I'm doing it. Simple as that. And I fell out and woke up in the hospital, and my mom's sitting there just begging me to stop. Like, begging me to stop. I don't remember anything. And a few hours before that, I slipped into a coma, and they told my mom to say her goodbyes. And I wasn't supposed to wake up for whatever reason I did. And when I do wake up, I'm not, same thing, I'm not thinking like I'm grateful to be alive. I'm not thinking like I should listen to my mom that's sitting here devastated and in tears. I'm just thinking like I need to get out of this hospital bed and like run, because that's what I've been doing my whole life. And my probation officer even called me from the hospital, and he told me, look, it's a HIPAA violation. I can't even ask where you are. I just want to make sure you're all right. Like, please turn yourself in. And I knew it was the right thing to do, but I just couldn't do it. So I did what I did. I got out, and I got pulled over a few days later, and I go back in, and this time it was like a free ticket. Like, I go back in, they gave me my time, and by the time I got out, I was off probation, and I thought I could just smoke weed. Like that, I was a stoner for a little while, and marijuana doesn't mess up my life. Like, it's not a big deal. And then I smoked that weed, and the next thing, it's off to the races. Within a week, I'm doing everything that I was doing before. So I'm back in my mom's house, and at this point, my mom's house is like a trap house. There were like 4 of my friends that were living there even when I wasn't living there. And one of my friends was addicted to heroin, and asked him to sell me some, and he did. And at this point, like, I just became everything I told myself I would never be. I held resentment towards my dad for years. The biggest reason for that resentment is because I became that man. By the time I was 20 years old and in treatment and a full-blown heroin addict, I looked in the mirror and I saw him. Like, everything that he's done that I've resented him for, the things he's done in the lying, the cheating, the steal, like, I've done all of that. Next thing you know, I'm just within a week, I'm using needles, and I start shooting heroin, and this vicious cycle just goes on of me going back and forth to detox and treatment. And I don't want to die, but it's like I already have the obsession, and like I don't have a choice. Like, in the back of my mind, I know it's not a good idea to do all of this right now, but like, I don't have a choice. I'm gonna do it anyways. My disease calls, I answer. I was mad. I was ashamed, really. I was ashamed because I've tried so many times, but I never really tried. Like, I tried to go to detox, and knowing damn well as soon as I got out, I was gonna drink again. I just tried to make the outcome different, and at this point in my life, I've lost that choice. Like, the outcome's gonna be the same every single time. So I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I had to tell my mom, like, again, like, I just relapsed. I had to tell her again for like the 8th time that I just overdosed. And I came out of that situation, and I had the mindset, like, I'm gonna do everything I possibly can do to stay sober this time, because I'm not gonna make it back next time. I'm almost positive of that. If I go back out right now, I probably won't be here tomorrow. For whatever reason, rock recovery took me back, and I kind of had that mindset that I'm gonna do everything I possibly can do to stay sober, because realistically, I'm not gonna make it back if I go back out again. That's just the reality of it for me. And so I did everything they told me to do. I did all the groups and stuff like that. They told me to get a sponsor, so I got a sponsor. And I started working my steps fairly quickly. I got through my steps fairly quickly. And when this man told me to jump, I said, how high? Like, I didn't care what he told me to do, how stupid it sounded at the time, like, I did it. And I wasn't even really sold on it, but I figured that I have nothing to lose at this point. I got some dead-end job, and like, for the first time in my life, I was okay with that. I was okay with that because I knew, like, that's all I needed at the time. And my manager saw pretty quickly how hard I was working. I mean, I'd show up with a bicycle and like soaking wet in the rain. So like they gave me a promotion pretty quick, and I got another promotion from there, and I worked my way up in work. And as far as like my program and stuff like that, I was doing a lot of H&I commitments. I was bringing meetings into, I was bringing light where I used to bring nothing but darkness. Like I was bringing in meetings, and I was working with other men. I was sponsoring guys, and that's pretty much like what my life consisted of, just work and my program. That was like the first 7-8 months. After a period of time, like Rock saw what I was doing, and they offered me a house manager position, and which I thought was crazy. Like I didn't think that was in the cards. I think the biggest thing for me was the serenity. Was in my entire life, if I was inside, I wanted to be outside. If I was outside, I wanted to be inside. And at this point, I was working a program, and the obsession wasn't really there. Like it was lifted for me pretty quickly, and as long as I continue to work this program and like do what I'm doing now, it will stay gone. What I like most about being sober is for the first time in my life, I can just come home and be content. I'm not always chasing like what's going on next. I can come home from work and like I'm like an old man now. Like I can come home from work, I can like make myself a little snack before I go to bed, and I can just like sit there and for once in my life be at peace with myself. It's pretty much like the best thing about it, really. Life is still gonna happen, life is gonna show up, but for the first time in my life, I can be okay with the way life shows up, and I can handle it in a different way that's not just complete self-destruction.